Alright, so animated textures using the sequence animation. Let me pull up something that can illustrate this, how this kind of works. So this probably would be, so you got an image and each frame it's a different part of the animation. That's exactly how this works in the game. So I made this image to illustrate like how you would do this. Each one of these blocks is 512 by 512 exactly, and the total image is 2048 by 512. Now I exported this as a DDS file, but you can also export it as a PNG file. I would think you could also export it as a JPEG if you don't mind aliasing and stuff, but I try to use DDSs when possible because they're better performance than JPEG PNGs, just for the fact they don't have to be processed by the CPU. They go straight to the GPU. Well, in BeamNG they do. I'm not sure about other programs, but let's load up Blender, and I'm gonna illustrate using this this box here. So I want to make an image for this, and I'm just going to call it eye test. The base color image is going to be that image I just showed you. Desktop. Alright. And I'll turn on the texture shader preview thingy there. You can also hit Z on the keyboard and select it that way. But you can see how it's got the materials on here is not correct. So I'll go into edit mode by hitting tab. You can get there, or you can pick it up here, it doesn't matter. I'm going to pick this face here, and I'm going to say UV unwrap. Now, unwrapping does not always give you the results you want. I would recommend, if you've scaled an object to any different size, to apply its transforms in object mode, which is here, before unwrapping. But you know, it's one of these things. Oh, you also got to hit Z on the keyboard and say material preview if you are in UV editing. For some reason, I guess Blender thinks if you're messing with the UVs, you don't want to see your texture in real time being, you know, manipulated. I don't know why it does that. I don't care. It's just annoying. But anyway, we hit A over here. Just remember, if you're over here and you're doing things, you're messing with this. If your cursor's over here and you're doing things, you're messing with the this side, because it's easy to mess up something in here if you're on the wrong thing. Also, when you can hit this to rotate or hit R to rotate, but hold Control down to lock it in 5-degree increments. You know, you also got the option to move stuff around like this. But since we want this to behave like a flip book, we want this to match one of these basically perfect. Because in the game, we'll actually edit the material editor. In the material editor, we will tell it to sequence. I'm not worrying about the rest of this thing. I'm not even worrying about that. Just this. So we'll just call this cube eye test. It don't matter what you call it. And I'm just going to export it as a collider into small grid. And my preferred method of doing this kind of stuff, I always just make another folder. That way, when I want to move this thing from level to level, it ain't no problem. Now, mod's a little different. Now, I'll get into the eyeball in a minute, but I first wanted to show you this to give you an idea how the texture works. And I know I can get this to work right away. The eyeball on the dummy, that's a whole different story. He's a pain in the ass to get to work for some reason. So in this eye test folder, I will save this DAE eye test. I'll tell it, let it copy the material into there. And now we'll go into, I'll take this main.materials here. I'll keep this one on my desktop just so I can copy it to my clipboard. We'll go into that level, small grid, art, eye test, and paste it. Now that name I give that material in Blender, eye test, this is going to go here. When you open this with Notepad++ or your other photo editor, whichever one you prefer, don't matter. See, this is where this goes, and it goes here, and it goes here. The actual texture I think is 1234.dds. I'll have to double check. Yeah, 1234.dds. So all this, I'll let the game do the rest. So I'm just going to save this, and I'm going to put this, load that level, and import in that object. Now, opposed, I mean, what am I trying to say? Alternatively to doing this method, you could have just launched the game after exporting that eye test into the folder. You could have just launched the game, and you could have done it this way too. For those that prefer to rather use the material editor to handle all that scripting and stuff. So I hit F11. Now if you did do it the alternate way, you would need to go ahead and make the texture now before you import in that thing at all from the asset browser. You would just go to new material, you put the name, which was eye test, and you'd say create, and you would create it here, and you would load the material into here, and then you would up at the top save the material. As long as you do that before you import it in the object, you won't have a texture problem. But remember, if you do import in the object and you have a red texture, even if you fix it over here, you're going to have to reload the level for that change to take effect. You'll pull every hair out of your head trying to figure out why the hell you got everything right, but it's still a red texture. It took me a while to figure that out. So let's import in our old cube, which is, there's that folder, there's that box. So I just realized every texture I make in here on this level is dark as hell for some reason. I think I got something turned down, and I think, I don't know, I'm not quite sure, to be honest, what's going on with this thing, but I'm just going to leave it like this. I'll leave it like it was. Don't worry about this other stuff. I think it's just the lighting on this level is like real contrasty for some reason, so it like makes textures look extra dark in some certain views. So down here, if you go down to animation, you'll see what's called image sequence. You got frames per second, which we don't have any frames whatsoever now activated. We just are only a maximum of 30 frames per second. But let's increase this and you'll start to see how this works. So it's about timing. Have you ever, I'm no mechanic, but I have seen how a timing light works. And you basically, it's like a timing light in a way that you want to time it so that it displays that perfect, as we have in here. We go to the editor, how it has this perfect box. So you pretty much right now the way it's doing it is like it's offset. It's like this. Every time it's flashing like this instead of flashing like this. In the middle, it's offset. And depending on the time you put it, can be flashing backwards, it can be flashing forwards. And the way you normally would figure this out, you'd start with just one. Just put number one. Damn it. Hold control, left click, and then you can manually type in the stuff. 1, backspace, 2, 3, 4. No, it's going to have to be a point. Point 1, point 2. Nope, see, it's going the other way. So we know it's in between point 1 and point 2. I happen to know it's like 1.25 or 1.5. Let's say 1.5. Nope, 1.25. Nope. Damn, I'm wrong. 0.25. There it is. 0.25. So that's what you're basically doing. Whether it's numbers, it's an eyeball blinking, a mouth talking, or a little flag guy waving a flag at the starting line. You can do all kinds of little animations like that. But that's how that works. And you got the frames per second here. And I believe these are pretty, you got a lot of these going at one time, a high frame rate. I've seen it start affecting performance after a while, so I wouldn't want to use this excessively. But let's save the texture, and now that's saved. Now for the dummy. Same concept, except you're going to do it to a dummy. I'm going to delete the dummy that I currently have unpacked, so we can just start fresh. I'll just re-download them and everything. Delete the temp folder. Oh, game's running. Won't let me delete everything. Let me just close the game. Alright, he's not in there, so let me go into unpacked. Oh, I must have damn been irritated last night. I deleted the damn folder. Yeah, I was pretty pissed off with that damn dummy. Man, damn, that son of a bitch gave me some problems last night. So, let's go load the game. Let's go to the repository and let's download dummy. Repo. So I basically have to unsubscribe, resubscribe for it to re-download it. And then in the mod manager, I'll pick the dummy and I'll unpack the dummy. That will put him in the unpacked folder. Basically, now I can access him in mods, unpacked, dummy, vehicles, dummy. Now I'll make a shortcut here because I'll probably end up coming back here a few times, save a little time. You don't have to mess with the J-beam at all. I do want to redo his materials though, because I have a feeling this materials.cs is causing a problem when you also have a main.materials.json in the same folder. That's the only thing I can think is causing the issue with him. So now, in fact, I'm just going to delete his TAM texture completely. And I'm going to load the DAE in the Blender. So we'll go back to layout. I'll just delete that. Import collider. Go to that mods folder. Unpack dummy vehicles dummy dummy.dae. Now in here he's got his own texture. All these parts got the texture dummy. I'm going to just make a texture called dummy. I'm going to use this main.materials here, copy it here, and I'm just going to call it dummy and use it. Basically just remake it so it's not a CS, it's a json. If it works, I mean, it should work. I wouldn't see why it wouldn't, but I would say nothing surprises me anymore. Copy that to my clipboard, that way I don't misspell anything, and paste that right here. Alright, let's save it. Let's load him and see if the texture is working. Actually, just close the game. I'd say test things on small grid. It loads the quickest. When you're making things, you got to reload and reload. You don't want to reload on a level that takes forever to load. It's taking a little longer to load because I deleted the temp folder. Temp folder's got all the other things that were cached for the level. Alright, where you at, dummy? So it appears the texture does work for this .json conversion. They make a converter. I don't remember where the hell it's at. It converts the textures. So now we need to just basically we're just going to make a little, like, pair of sunglasses. I'm just going to do one eye for now, but we're not messing with the J-beam. All we're doing is modifying the actual dummy head. So we'll add a mesh plane. It's going to be down here on the ground. We'll scale it down, move it up, rotate it. And you can also subdivide this thing and shrink wrap it to the head if you would prefer that. But if you do that, get the UVs right first before you do that. Now I should be able to just add that texture because it's still in the Blender, because I didn't make a new project. I just imported him into the existing project. That's why the texture's still there. But you're not probably doing all this. You would just basically need to just make a new texture by just on the box, just in the texture, add new texture, and just whatever you're gonna call it, whatever. UV editor, yep. UV unwrap. There we go. Now the UVs are correct for this eye. If this was an eyeball blinking, that's basically I'm saying that would be lined up correctly. Now, when you join two objects, you have to remember each object has its own UV maps. Most of the time, they're different. If we pick the head and we open up in this little green thing here, UV maps, you'll see the name of the UV map. You don't have to know what any of that means or anything. It's just what they named it. The game developers named it, or whoever made the mod, that's what they named it. Doesn't matter. Just copy it to your clipboard. You're going to pick the number, or this box here, and in its UV maps, you're going to double click and paste. That way, when you join this to this, it'll join both objects without messing up a texture. Alright, so we hit the eyeball first, hold shift, pick the head. That tells it when we join that's going to assume that. Basically, that plane, mesh plane, becomes dummy head. So now dummy head has two textures, eye test and dummy. So dummy's already made, we just need to put eye test in there now. So in that main.materials that we created, we're going to add a second texture. I'm just going to copy this one. To add a second texture, you go to the end of a texture. Like this is only one texture, but you go to the end of it and just enter bracket, comma. Comma after a bracket means, hey, there's another one. Bracket means that's it, there ain't nothing else. And backwards back bracket means this is the start. Half the other stuff I couldn't tell you, but that I know. All right, so this is called eye test. Eye test. And again, you could have created this in the game, but if you do it in the game, you're going to be limited to where you're going to be limited to that level, because it's going to be looking for it on that level, opposed to this method where it's not. Oh, no. Let me back up. I'm telling you wrong. That's for track assets, not DAE. I mean for DAEs, not for mods. Mods are dependent on the damn location. So I'm not going to put a color map in there yet. I'm going to leave that blank. I'm going to let the game fill that out, and I'll show you how it works. So the eye test texture will be made. It's just not going to have a map to go with it. That's the only thing. And I'm pretty sure this can't be in here because that's for DAEs. But hell, I'm not sure. I had so many problems yesterday trying to make this video. It's like, shit. Not even quite sure. Let's save it. Let's load it and see. Oh yeah, almost forgot. Since we added that eyeball, or that box, we need to re-export that dummy. The DAE file, overwrite the other dummy. That's in the unpack, dummy, vehicles, dummy.dae. Now let's reload. Oh, there it is. Sometimes things just work out. Sometimes they don't. This is, for whatever reason, one of them things that let me update right away without having to reload. We'll go to spawn vehicles, player. Oh, and I can't stand that shit there. It's all always in the way. Material editor eye test. And see, there's nothing in here because we didn't, remember I took that line out. I didn't want any problems, so I'm doing it the hard way, I guess. Mods, unpacked, dummy, vehicles, dummy, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, there you go. If that was an eye blinking, it'd be blinking. You can save your file. Now let me show you what this did. In this folder, there is your user folder, there's a vehicles folder. Anytime you well, it didn't save it, did it? Maybe that's only for shit. Excuse me. I talk to myself sometimes. I'm trying to figure something out. I was going to say that anytime you modify a texture, it adds it into this folder, but that's not where that's supposed to. It didn't save it there. Hold on, I may be telling you wrong. Maybe it's in a temp folder. I was thinking it's in the other folder, but no, that's the CDAE. Should be a damn dummy in there with a modified texture. I don't know. Okay, this is just a damn Scooby-Doo mystery because I shit don't know. Save. Ain't in there. It didn't save it into here either because, oh hell, had it done it, it'd be in here. It's still not showing a texture in there, and I added one to it. Maybe it's a damn bug. Maybe, I don't know. I need to reinstall this. I don't know. But what I was going to say is usually when you save after doing it that way, in this folder, it makes a folder for the name of the mod, and in that folder is the modified main.material.json, which you would copy and you would overwrite the mod's unpacked dummy vehicles dummy. You would overwrite that one with the one you modified, but then you'd have to open it and you'd have to remove the two lines that say unpacked. It's like two different things you got to remove. It's got to do with the location of the file. Uh, so you would remove the unpack slash dummy out of it, so that all that's left is vehicles slash dummy. Or the mod's only going to work if it's in an unpacked form. By removing that unpacked slash dummy, it can work either zipped or unzipped. So yeah, why that didn't, I don't know, folks. I don't know. Every time I make a video, I'm surprised by something new. And I've only had about a year to mess with this stuff, which is, it ain't really that long when you're trying to figure out everything. There's a lot of shit, a lot of stuff, and I forget things too. Forget things often. Oh, you save this. It doesn't matter, but you would do that. And if you were wanting to do two eyes, you could, done two eyes. You could stick a mouth on there. There's so much more you can do with it. This is pretty a limited demonstration, actually. I guess what I could do. No, I don't know. I was gonna say I'd zip him and share him in his state he's in, but I don't know why that ain't saving. It's gonna be something I have to figure out. Maybe that's got some shit to do with it. I don't know. His ass ain't in there. Close all this shit. Maybe you have multiple things open is causing a problem. No, I don't know. I just manually type it in here. See, that's why I prefer to do the shit this way. I don't like using the damn editor to do this stuff. I prefer to just manually do it. That way I know the shit's in there and it's right. I don't like using the alternate method. I guess I can zip him and pack him and share him, and you can have this as an example. Probably would be good. Let me delete the temp folder. That way when I load it, I know that what you're seeing is the version that I have in the unpacked folder that's being displayed, and not the version that's from the temp folder that's the CDAE version. Alright, so now I'll go to mods, dummy, pack, and on OneDrive share this. Not quite sure what this does. I uncheck it. I don't know if that lets people delete stuff or not. I don't want everybody deleting all my stuff. So that's the link you'll get in this video that I'm about to upload.